Let's start by making some pastry cream. You get this pan hot. I love this pan. It's an enameled cast iron. I've had it for 40 years. Alright, we're going to start by putting 3 cups of milk in that pan. And 1/3 cup of sugar. This stuff is sweet. Pastry cream is basically pudding, French pudding, but it's so much better than that stuff you get in a package. I mean, you could certainly get a package of vanilla pudding if that's what you want to do. Make it a little bit thicker. A lot of people do this with a vanilla bean. They scrape it off and put it in there. Cook it down. Vanilla beans are great in here. Okay. Here we got 3 eggs. Gonna mix them well. I like using those brown eggs. Nice deep golden yellow color to them. Look at that, huh? Nice, huh? Okay. Set that aside for 1 second. In here, we're going to put 1/2 cup of sugar, 1/3 cup of cornstarch. This stuff is going to be thick. You want this to be thick for the reason when it's inside of an eclair or it's inside of a profiterole, you don't want to bite down into it and it squirt out onto the people's clothes, right? And these things aren't going to be refrigerated. They're going to be sitting on the table for sometimes an hour or so, 2 hours, 3 hours. Alright, that's nice. Now we're going to take our eggs, get our sugar and our cornstarch mixed together. I'm going to take our eggs and mix that stuff together. It'll absorb down into it. You want to get all that stuff out of there. You want every bit of that yolk you can. And we're going to mix this in. It's going to be a little pasty, but it's okay. I'm going to mix it well. Okay. Nice. This stuff is rich, let me tell you. And what we're going to do is get our milk and sugar over here. Whew. Boiling. When that boils, we're going to pour it into our egg mixture. It's called tempering. If you just kind of dump those yolks and the sugar right into the milk here and then try to bring it to a boil, the eggs would cook. You end up with scrambled eggs and then it's just a mess. Nice and hot. Definitely want to get it to a boil first. Pastry cream is used for Boston cream pie, stuffing donuts, stuffing eclairs, profiteroles. You take the pastry cream and you whip heavy cream and make whipped cream out of it. And you could mix the two together, once they're cooled of course, and you can make a diplomat cream, which is like a thicker, lighter, fluffier filling for donuts or eclairs. Okay, this guy is just getting ready to boil. Starting to see, you got to be careful over here because it'll boil over fast. So I want to get this off the stove. Okay, as soon as it comes to a boil, that milk will boil over. So be careful. And it'll just boil right and just make a mess. Okay, what we're going to do now, we're coming to a boil. We're going to bring this over here. And we're going to grab this milk. Be careful, it's going to be hot. And this is called tempering. So we're going to take this, I'm going to stir little by little into this. Okay? It'll get those eggs at room temperature a little bit faster. Okay. Just keep stirring it in like that. You don't want scrambled eggs. Okay, now we'll see how that's nice and incorporated, nice and thin. Okay. Get this back on the fire. Now you don't want this on high. You want to keep this on fairly low because you don't want this to happen too fast. Okay, and now we can stir this and pour these into here. Now it's going to thicken up pretty darn fast. You'll notice it'll turn like a nice lemony color when it starts to thicken up. Let's get this right in the middle. Okay, you want to keep mixing. That cornstarch is going to sit on the bottom. And sugar will sit on the bottom. Now it's not going to curdle. It may look like it's going to break. Breaking means it's separating. It may look like it's gonna, but it's not. But you definitely want to keep stirring this. Okay, it's foaming on top right now. Once it starts to thicken up, that foam will go away. And then once the cornstarch boils, it's not going to do anything else after that. So we're going to keep stirring this up, go around those edges, get in those corners. Okay, not too high. I got my heat down low. Okay, here we go. Look at this now. Here it goes. Now it looks like it's going to break, but it's not. Keep around those corners. There we go. Look at that. Look at that, nice and thick. This is a thick pan, so this is going to hold the heat for quite some time. Okay, that cornstarch is cooked. Look how thick that is. Isn't that beautiful? Okay. That came to a boil. It bubbled a couple times. That's all you want. Now if you notice that it's gritty, or you want to go ahead and make it extra fine, you might have not got those corners cleaned out nicely. The edges, you could always grab a strainer and try to force it through a strainer. This doesn't need it because that's nice and thin, or nice and thin, nice and clear. Let me see if I can't pick this up without burning myself. Look at that. That's nice and smooth. There's no chunks in there. So when this cools, it's going to be thick. I mean thick, thick, thick. And that's what you're looking for. Like I said, you don't want it to be runny. If it's runny, it's just going to run right out when they take a bite of their eclair. And it's going to get all over them, and then you're not going to be happy. They're not going to be happy. Okay, so our next deal is we're going to put some butter in there. It's softened. I don't want that hot. I don't want it melted. I just want it softened. Okay. This is 2 tablespoons of butter. And I'm going to put about a teaspoon of vanilla and a teaspoon of orange extract. I like the orange extract because it gives it a really good flavor. And now we're just going to stir this in. That butter is going to give it some extra richness. And of course that butter is also going to solidify when it gets cold. Okay, look at that. Stir that in there real good. Nice and smooth and velvety. We're going to give this a taste. Perfect. All right. Let's get a bowl over here. Get it in a bowl. So we want to let this cool all night. I mean, just a minimum of 4 or 5 hours. You don't want to go putting anything when it's hot, you know? It's not going to do you any good. Now when you wrap this, I know, vanilla pudding, that's what it is basically. French vanilla pudding. When you make pudding, that little dry topping is wonderful, isn't it? But you don't want that on this because you want to be able to use this. So I'm going to take my piece of baking paper, parchment paper, just going to give it a little spray. Why I do that is so it lifts off a little easier. Then we're going to press this right down on top of it. Make sure it's sealed. You can use plastic wrap. I don't have any of that. Make sure it's pressed down flat across the whole top. That's all you're looking for. Okay? I'm going to let this cool first for a few minutes, and then we're going to put it in the fridge overnight. We bring it out tomorrow. You can pour it in a shallow pan if you want. This is only about 1.5 inches, 2 inches in this bowl. Alright, I'm going to put it in the fridge. And pull it out in the morning. Let's make some cream puff shells. Okay, we're going to start that off. Get this pan hot. We're going to put in 1 cup of water. And we are going to put in 4 ounces of butter. Yes, 4 ounces. Isn't that that's a lot, huh? We'll let that cook down. Gotta melt that up. Okay, cream puff shells are made out of what's called pate choux. Call it choux paste also. You can make all kinds of stuff with it. French crullers, I mean, everybody loves them. Eclairs, a lot of pastry items are used in it. It's used as a base. You put that stuff out, shape it, cook it off, and fill it with raspberries and all kinds of different items. It's pretty good stuff, let me tell you. Okay, first we're going to do is get this to a boil. The process in this is a couple steps. It's basically making a roux with water and cooking it super thick and frying the flour. If you look at it in the big picture, but alright, that was felt. You don't want to use margarine in this. Margarine's got a ton of water in it. End up with too much water and not enough butter. Butter's going to create steam inside the bread and then make it puff up. It's going to be cool. I'm going to get our oven on back here. And we want the oven on 425. Okay. This is coming to a boil. You turn that down. We don't want this too high. We want it hot. We want to cook the flour. These are those eclairs that you guys loved. Okay, when adding the flour, you don't want to add little bits at a time. You want to add it all. Reason being, You want this all to incorporate into one shot. Okay. It may look lumpy to start with, but it won't be, because you're going to cook it all in. Okay, it's pretty pasty looking, ain't it? Okay, you're going to end up with little bits of flour in there. That's just unavoidable. You can pull those out when you see them. Look at that. That's just a real thick dough, ain't it? Okay. It's not ready yet. A lot of people do this with a wooden spoon. It sticks to the wooden spoon and helps it spread easier. Now you want to cook out some of the moisture. Okay, look at that. That's just a thick, greasy gob. If you had an aluminum pan or a stainless pan, it's going to stick to the sides, and that's fine. It's not going to hurt anything. Just as long as you don't let it get brown. Okay, how are we looking here, huh? Looks pretty good. Hasn't started to sizzle yet, so we're going to give that about a minute of our time. Meanwhile, over here, I've got 4 eggs. Better to crack them into a measuring cup to start with, so you're not going to get shells dropping in there unexpectedly. Now check this out. I used brown eggs, but I only had 3. And 1 white egg. Look at the difference in color. Those brown eggs are so rich. And they're so flavorful, and they give your baking products a really nice color if you're looking for that. Alright, let's get back over to this stuff. Oven's heating up nicely. This looks good. This is perfect, okay? Okay, it looks good. It's all dried up nicely. It's been cooking for about 3 or 4 minutes extra. Flour's doing its thing. Let's get it off the fire. Okay, here's the fun part. Let's get this out of the way. Now we want to let it cool. Now that it's heated, we have to cool it. If we don't cool it, it's going to cook our eggs when we put our eggs in it. And we don't want that. So the best way to do that is to get it to the sides of the pan, just for a couple minutes, and it'll cool it off. At this heat, you put an egg in there, it's just going to cook your egg and ruin everything. Okay, give it a little stir, get it to the edge again. Okay, this thing has cooled down considerably. It's nice. You can tell it's not such a shiny mass anymore, but it's nice and cool. We're not going to cook our eggs. Now, I didn't add my salt before. I'm going to put a little bit of salt. You got to have salt in your baking products, because it'll end up flat if it's don't. Don't worry, we're going to have a chance to mix this up. Now if you got little bits on the side here that are kind of darker, try not to scrape them too much, okay? Here we go. To make this, we're going to put in 1 egg at a time. That's why we cracked them. Okay? Doesn't have to be exact 1 egg. And we have to incorporate each egg completely. Okay, it doesn't look like it's going to work out very good because it's kind of a mess, but this is where the wooden spoon would come in handy for you. You're going to mix these around. The first couple eggs are going to go in easily. Okay, but as you progress a little further and you get more and more eggs in there, it gets to be pretty messy. Alright, see how that got in there? That egg is in there nice. And it's gotten a lot thicker. That's why I said you don't want to play with it too much earlier and get yourself worn out. Okay, let's get another egg in there. 1 more egg. You can use a spatula in here. A spatula, a little rubber spatula maybe, a spoonula. Okay, it's kind of gushy. Here it comes. It's starting to thicken up again. Nice, there we go. But you do want to incorporate it completely every time. Alright, you may want to rush it, but it's not going to do you any good. You start rushing it, you get too much eggs in there at one time, and it won't mix. You're just going to end up with a sloppy mess, and it's just going to beat around all of there. You just end up getting frustrated. It'll slap all over and come out of the pot. Oops. Imagine if I had 2 eggs in there just now. A whip won't work. A couple reasons. A whip will incorporate too much air into this, and then all the stuff will get stuck inside all the strands of the whip. Okay, here we go. That came together nicely. Electric mixer is the best thing for doing this, but we're going to do it this way because not everyone's got one. Okay, last egg's going in now. There's a balance in there where how much eggs you can put in it to the mix ratio of the dough, and if you put too much it'll get too sloppy. Don't put enough and it'll be too dry. Alright. This last egg will make this nice and soft, pliable. Here it goes. Now it's coming together. Look at that nice sticky mess. It's not too runny. It's going to hold its shape when we pipe this out. Give it a good mix. Okay, look at that. Our oven came to temperature while I was away. It beeped. This is nice. We'll be able to pipe that out. That's really nice. Okay, let's get this off to one side. Let's talk about these things. This is called a silpat. Silpats are silicone patisserie. This is a French one. These are kind of nice. You can do anything you want on these. You can pour sugar, boiling sugar directly on it. It'll peel right off. You want to throw a steak on there? Throw it on there. It'll cook right off in the oven. These things are good for like 450 degrees or something. Put a piece of fish on it. It doesn't matter. As long as it's not on the direct broiler, you're fine. Okay, pastries, donuts, anything on here will not stick to these, which is great. And they're good for thousands and thousands of uses. Okay, pastry bags. This is a 14-inch pastry bag. Looks like you got about a 1-inch hole in the top, maybe 3/4 of an inch hole. That's gonna be perfect size for this. We could use a star tip, make shapes, making long shapes. We could make eclairs, baby eclairs, full size, long eclairs. We're gonna make cream puffs today, so let's get a little bit in here. I'm gonna turn it back, put it over your hand. Like this, right down in the center. Squeeze it with your fingers to get it off your spoon or whatever you're loading in there with. You don't want to overload it. You can always put some more in there. The only difference is when you're putting more than one spoonful, more than one bag full, you're going to get a little air pocket in there, and that's going to cause a little trouble. All right, so now that you got this in, right, it's all loaded in here. Kind of give it a squeeze and then turn it. And holding this tight. What that's doing, it's forcing a nice tight center in there with no air pockets. Okay, strip that off the top. Like that, clear it off, and then we're going to make little 1-inch balls. These things are going to grow, and you want to keep them about 1 inch apart from each other. Alright, so just like that. That's it. Okay, that's about it. So you push them down in there, and pull them off. These are fighting me, which is okay. We're going to get back to that in a minute. Press it down in there flat, get a little shape, pull it up. Press it in there flat and get a little shape, pull it up. Around about 1 inch apart, maybe 2 inches, depending on how many you want to make, how many pans you got. But they're definitely going to grow into each other, so you don't want to get them too close. These look like little Hershey's Kisses right now, don't they? Now if you were making eclairs, you would turn it sideways, get it down flat, and just kind of make them about that shape. It would give you little things there, but this is going to grow pretty big, but we're not making eclairs. So back we go over to here. Okay, I don't know where I lost off, so we'll fix that in a minute. Okay, so now we end up at about 60 of these guys, huh? They're a little odd shaped, that's fine. We're going to take our water, a little bowl of water here, dip your finger in it. Now you can shape these. They're water based, that's fine. If you wanted to put some egg wash on top of these, you could egg wash them and put that stuff called crystal sugar that doesn't melt. It's a non-melting sugar, that big chunks that you see on Danish and stuff sometimes. You can put that on there. Egg wash will give it a nice glaze. And then if you did the egg wash part, you wouldn't be using chocolate on it, but we're going to chocolate these guys up. Okay, the only reason why I'm wetting my finger here, because that'll stick to these things pretty bad. This is some pretty sticky stuff, so. Our oven's ready. Ended up with 60 of these guys. These are going to go in for a minimum of 20 minutes. Depending on what kind of oven you have, how hot it gets. We're going to go ahead and get these in the oven. Our oven's done. It's at 425. And we're going to see, this should take about at least 30 minutes. We're going to check them in about 25 minutes. You don't want to go open in the oven and close in the oven constantly. Put these in. I'll be back in a minute. Let's get these things out of here. It's been 20 minutes. Let's see what we got. Oh, look at these little guys, huh? Nice. Okay, these are going to be small. These are made for just little poppers, so. Turn off my oven. All right. Let's grab one. Look at this, nice and hollow. Oops, where'd it go? Bust it open. Nice and fluffy in there. Now, if you made them bigger, you'd have a lot more air pocket in there. So what we're going to do, we're going to let them cool completely for at least 20-30 minutes. If you want to do these ahead of time, you definitely could. Store them in the freezer, store them overnight. Let's get another one open. Look at it. Okay, see that little pocket down in here? That's what we're looking for. We're going to fill that up with some of that pastry cream. We'll let these cool, and we'll be back in about 20 minutes or so. And we'll get to filling them. And then we'll make some chocolate sauce. We'll dip them, color up a little bit, and be ready to go. Be back in a bit. Let's see what we got here. These have cooled thoroughly. Nice and soft. There's a nice little pocket in there. Nice, huh? Be perfect just for a little munchkin. Pop that baby in. Here's our pastry cream. Nice. It's cooled nicely. Look how thick that is. This stuff is going to be perfect. So we're going to give it a little stir. Now if we had the whipped cream made, we could fold it together, make the diplomat. I want to make this a little bit pliable so we can get it through the pastry bag, through the tip, into these guys. Now normally, you could, nice, just cut an eclair in half long ways, and then pipe it in there. So I've got my pastry bag coming apart a little. I had to tape it. And it's got this little tip on it. Look at this little tip. It's a donut tip. Get in there. And what are you going to do? And it's got a little cut on the end. That's going to help us get into it inside of these things. The same thing again. I'm going to roll the bag back a little bit. Get your hand underneath there. Make a little pocket. Grab a scoop of this stuff. Again, you don't want to overdo this. You don't want to get too much in there. Put too much in there, you'd just be fighting all this stuff for nothing. Alright, that's enough to fill about 12, 15. Alright, let's get this out of the way for now. Same thing, shake it down a little bit, give it a little twist there until it starts to come out that end, and then turn it. Now this is more, every time you pipe a little bit, you'll turn it again. You just want to keep this tight, and as you work your way down, okay, these, dry that tip off a little bit. Take that little cut piece, we're going to find a spot towards the top because we're going to dip these in chocolate, and just kind of insert it down inside of it like that. And just give it a little squeeze. You don't want to give it too much squeeze because you don't want to pop your bag. This stuff's pretty thick. Okay, go until you start to see it come out the end. Alright? If you put it in too much, you end up with a mess. Do another one. It'll just get in there and just kind of work its way around. And then it'll try to push itself out. Okay, you can move around different angles. Get it all filled up inside of there, just till you see it come out that hole. Alright, we're going to get all these filled, just in case that last bag exploded on me. This bag's going to try to explode on me. See, it's starting to come apart right here. So I'm going to go ahead and fill all these up. Be very careful what I'm doing, and I'll be back in a minute. Well, that wasn't pretty, let me tell you. Just goes to show you. You never know how stuff's going to act. Let's get this pan hot, and we'll talk about it. Okay, I got 1 cup of chocolate here. Semi-sweet morsels. And I got about 1/2 cup of heavy cream. Alright, we're going to make some glaze for the top of these guys. I don't want to get this too hot too fast. We want to get this to a boil, which will happen very fast. Let's get over here and look at these things for a second. Alright, here's our eclairs. We ended up with quite a few. That bag fell apart on me. I had to use another bag, and that fell apart on me. So as you saw, I was filling these things up, squeezing them till they were starting to come out a little bit. There's about a tablespoon in each one. We're not looking for these giant super gooey things. We're looking to have just little pop in your mouth morsels that kind of explode a little bit when you get to them. Alright. Heavy cream's starting to come to a boil already. When you're working with chocolate, you don't want any water anywhere near it. Water is not friends of chocolate until it gets melted to a certain point. Because there's a lot of cocoa powder in there. Cocoa in it, whatever's in there. But let me tell you, everything's got to be dry, free from water. We used to put orange juice in it and heavy cream and let it sit for half an hour on top of the stove, and it was more than enough. Okay, our heavy cream has come to a boil over here. We're going to make a fairly thin glaze, just enough to coat the top of it. Alright, here we got the boil. We're going to pour it right on here. Alright, that was a half a cup to 1 cup of chocolate. Give it a quick stir. Let's see what we got. Kind of looks like it's broken. It's okay. It'll all come together in a second. Just keep stirring it. Keep stirring it up. Look at that. Here it comes. Look at that. It's beautiful, huh? You can microwave chocolate to thin it out. This, I think, is the best way. This is kind of, if it had butter in it, it'd be called ganache. Okay, let's let that sit another second. Let the chocolate thin out a little bit. There's still some thicker chunks in there that got to do their thing. The bowl's still warm. Chocolate melts, believe it or not, at 98.6 degrees. Your body temperature. Oh yeah, that's good, huh? Look at that, nice and smooth. Keep mixing that up. Nice, got a nice gloss to it. We're not going to mess around here. You want this in a smaller pan. You don't want this in a big old pan. You want to be able to dip these things. It'd be good for dipping chocolate, or dipping strawberries, dipping pretty much anything. Grab a hold of it. Turn it upside down. Give it a touch. That's it. That's all you want. Get it out of the way. I recommend paper towels because you're going to make a mess. Okay, our eclairs came out pretty good. We made a little hole on the top. And each one, filled them out. These guys are going to be, they'll soften up a lot too. Let's get over here. Back this out a little bit. There we go. Okay, I'm just dipping, wiping my fingers off. Yes, my hands are clean. You don't want to get them too far apart because our next part, we don't want to waste a whole lot. All right, let's, oops, look at that. We're going to have to eat that one. This will dry up when it gets room temperature. It won't be crispy chocolate on top. We don't want it crunchy. We want it to be fairly soft, but we don't want it to be runny. We could have put another half a cup of cream in there. That would have been a nice chocolate sauce. Next, we're going to work with some white chocolate. There's a stuff called almond bark. Almond bark works good. It's definitely not chocolate, but it's a confectioner coating. They put it on pretzels. I want to get that one a little better. Oh yeah, look at that. Wow, what a mess. That guy's heavy, top heavy. Stay. I was saying almond bark, yeah. Almond bark, it's a confectioner's coating. They put it on pretzels. You can take like the middle pretzel sticks, melt that stuff down, dump a handful of pretzel sticks in there, grab out little piles of it, and makes little nests. Okay, we're gonna just chug right along here and do all these. All right, we're gonna do the white chocolate next. Before we get started with that, we're gonna take this sheet of parchment paper. This is what, 10, 12 by 17. We're going to fold it in half and make a cone out of it. Try to keep that tip pretty tight for now. Okay, get your hand in there and just roll it around. Okay, see that tip? That's a pretty sharp tip. That's what we're looking for, okay? I'm getting my hand in there and I'm twisting it and I'm holding it here to just get that tip out. Okay. I think it won't last long and it won't hold up for whole long, but it's going to hold up just for this, which is good. Okay, we got a tube inside of there. I'm going to cut the top of it off. Now we can see what we're doing. Okay, we want that tip pointy as possible. I made a mess out of it. There we go. Play with it, you'll get it. There we go. That's good. Okay. You may have to cut that tip off in a second. We'll see. Here we go. Get the stove on. I got about a half a cup of chips and about a 1/4 cup of heavy cream over here. I'm going to put in that pan. It's going to come to a boil pretty darn fast. Here we go over here. I'm just going to hang on to this thing for now because I don't want to play with it too much. Same thing, we're working with the white chocolate. White chocolate's usually not white chocolate, so you got to watch out. You got to. Sometimes it doesn't like them to work right. The difference between white chocolate and morsels. But okay, we got a nice tip inside that hole. Heavy cream's boiling. Pour it on those morsels. Okay, let's see what we end up with, right? I'm going to stir that in there. It looks pretty good. Actually, huh? Oops. Little piece of caramelized cream on there. It's kind of broke a little bit. It looks like it's broke a little bit. I don't think so. Okay, let's grab our pastry bag. Put our chocolate down inside of that baby. That's plenty, more than enough. Get that out of the way. Got our eclairs there. Gonna squeeze a little bag at one end. Hold one hand here, you can control it a little better. We're gonna start going this way, little lines. Look at that, nice little lines. That's why we wanted them so close together, because we didn't want to waste too much on the cutting board. Then we'll come back the other way. Squeeze our bag around a little bit. Come back this way. That's about it, and then you can just check anyone that needs a little help. We're going to let those cool for a minute. Clean up our mess. We'll come back and cut these out. And there you have it. Well, as you can see, me and white chocolate, we don't get along very well. These guys came out pretty nice, huh? Got them in my little Tupperware container, getting ready to take them out somewhere. Let's cut one in half and see what we end up with. Okay, here it is. There you go, a little bit of filling in there, dough in there a little bit, just enough, not overfilled, just enough in there when they take popping in your mouth. You get a little bit of everything. Overall, I think it took about an hour and a half, maybe an hour, about an hour and a half of all the work, plus everything baking and sitting overnight in the fridge. Clean up. Now you know how I always made those things. Maybe next time we'll make the eclairs. Get a real good close up of that for the screenshot. Little profiteroles.